So what I've done here is that I've got all the paper threes opened up in on my page, and
Yep.
obviously like the basics is obviously if you can practice every multiple choice question you possibly can until the paper, that means you'll get as close to 30 as possible. The second thing is practice like three or four 10 markers in time conditions, understand the structure of it, which I can go through separately if you want me to. That's done. So that's 40 marks where you can get as close to 40 as possible as you can.
Mm.
After that, it's just remaining another 40 marks. The 15 marker is basically impossible to prepare for because it's 2 years worth of content and you either know it or you don't. It's very hard to practice or understand what's going to come up in the 15 marker as it could be literally anything in the whole spec. Okay.
Oh, cool.
So the 15 mark is the one I would least prepare for because in the sense that you've already prepared for it by working hard for 2 years or and you might think you've not done that much hard work, but you've done enough. You'll know certain things that relate to the 15 marker. It's impossible to predict or prepare for it in a unique way. You just have to know your stuff. Okay.
Calm. And
The
so
gen
the structure is the same though in it for 15
yeah,
and
yeah.
10.
The general tip for the 15 markers still apply. Try to pick two paragraphs. Don't do any evaluation. Try to pick a diagram that will relate, that will help to boost your marks. But the main thing is the 25 marker.
Calm.
25 marker is different, a little bit different to the previous papers. It's similar to the section A, but it's still a bit different. It's a recommendation. You're working as an economist. It says
Oh,
you're an economist employed by blah blah blah, and if you check every paper, it will say that. And your
mm.
job is to recommend an answer to the question if somebody's asked it to you. You don't change your style of writing. Your introduction will still be like, in order to answer, like, give a definition, and then government intervention is used for correcting market failures. My answer will depend on X, Y, and Z. Okay.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
for example, if it's a macro question, the optimal response to the answer would depend on the macroeconomic objectives. Or if it's a micro question, the best government intervention might be the one that has the least risk of government failure, like all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But then the key thing is getting into your answer. Now, some questions, by chance, you may have practiced a similar question in the past, or you may know about that topic well. So that's great. That's perfect. The second thing is, it's not Peter Cramp's paper three predictions that will necessarily come up. He talked about certain things that he predicted it for paper two, and it was nowhere to be seen. So those things he predicted in paper two are left to be answered or questioned. So they could also come up in paper three. So you should also recap every question from Peter Cramp's paper one and two that hasn't come up.
All right. Calm.
So don't just think, oh, what he put in paper three prediction. Those are just extra practices. Um,
Yeah.
If you look at the question from paper three, one of them was about G7 countries, and that came up in paper two. And then
Yeah.
asked about trade deals in paper two that hasn't been tested at all. That's going to come up in paper three, probably, maybe.
Yeah.
Interest rates was meant to come up in paper two, it didn't come up. That could be tested in paper three. Obviously,
Mm.
inequality prediction, that would be great as well. Brilliant if it comes up. Okay,
Yeah. Well, the cost of living, apparently that's,
exactly. But you know the one that you were preparing for about low interest rates?
yeah.
That didn't come up, did it?
No.
So that could come up in paper three. That would be beautiful. So don't just rely on his paper three predictions. He just put that there by chance. It didn't. He doesn't know what's going to come up in paper. He shouldn't know what comes up in paper three. No one should know, right?
Okay.
So practice those, yeah, but also practice the paper two ones that didn't come up.
Calm.
But on top of that, whilst we'll go over the common themes, so say monetary policy will be a big theme. Supply side policies already came up, so monetary policy will be a big one. Tariffs, free trade, protectionism. Those were big predictions by Peter Cramp, by Econ Plus Style. They all did, Econ Plus Style did videos on it before paper two. And
Yeah.
it's a massive topic that hasn't come up. Okay, so that's more important, I'd say.
Trade, yeah.
Yeah, trade and protectionism. Again,
Okay.
not like no clue what's going to come up. There's literally no chance. I've tried in the past years to have a sensible guess, but it's impossible. It could be anything.
Calm.
But inequality hasn't come up, trade and protectionism hasn't come up, that kind of stuff.
So
But
I'll just focus on inequality, trade, and monetary policy. I see.
yeah,
Calm.
what's most important is understanding that the answer is right in front of you. This question says, would you recommend the government should intervene to support the UK steel industry? Let's look at the extract. What does it say? It says, steel is vital for essential products like buildings, vehicles, and refrigerators. There needs to be lower business rates, lower carbon taxes, lower carbon restrictions, and all that stuff to allow UK to have lower energy prices and still the steel industry to boom. Okay.
Okay.
Um, I'm looking for stuff that I can form a paragraph out of, and it would definitely be in the extract. 100%.
Was the question saying government intervention? Yeah.
Yeah. But
Mm.
there's micro and macro aspects to the question, which is the only difference.
Okay. Okay.
So, um, I'm thinking also it says however, so that's telling me why the government should not intervene. However,
So, so
gone,
for that 25 marker, we can mix macro and micro together,
yes.
basically.
Depending on
Oh,
what you think the question is asking about, what you think the key points are.
so,
Um, because it's specifically focusing on steel, there's a good reason to talk about micro points. But again, it's the UK government. The UK government's priority is the four objectives as well. So you can approach it in two different ways. It's up to you. It's your choice, really. That's why the question's so good. There's so much flexibility.
mm.
No wrong answers as long as it's explained well. So if
Okay.
I take this paragraph, look, what's the main focus of this paragraph?
It talks about comparative advantage, higher taxes.
Exactly. Exactly. It's saying that there's no comparative advantage in steel, so it's a waste of time. If the government spend a bunch of money subsidizing steel, then there's going to be an opportunity cost. And in the macro economy, if we waste money, what do we have to do next year or the year after or in 5 years' time? We have to raise taxes.
Oh, okay.
What happens if you raise taxes in macroeconomics? What happens to AD or AS?
It shifts to the left.
Exactly. So that's a paragraph. And that's the easiest paragraph. And all you've done is you've kept things simple. You've not overcomplicated it. You've searched the extract, you've looked for the key points, and you're writing a nice, simple but effective paragraph on it.
Oh, so does it have to be long?
As in, your point can be simple. You still have to develop it as much as you possibly can. So you would talk about how you would obviously define, assuming you know your knowledge, you would try to define and explain comparative advantage. You would say that the UK has comparative advantage in financial services. It does say it somewhere here. Anyway, the point is you'll look for it. You'll take 10 minutes to read. Um, I'll come to that in a second. Assuming you've read it,
Yeah.
you'll be like, the UK government has comparative advantage in financial services, but not in steel. The reason is that other countries produce steel much cheaper than us. Therefore, we would be wasting our money by subsidizing steel. Even if the UK government subsidizes steel, it's still cheaper to import it. Therefore, there's a waste of money. If there's a waste of money, that leads to a budget deficit and national debt, and that leads to future generations having higher taxes. In the future, there will be a high level of tax that would cause aggregate demand to shift to the left. That would cause a decrease in real GDP from Y1 to Y2, and that would maybe cause disinflation or deflation from Y1 to a PL1 to PL2. This is bad because it can lead to a negative multiplier, it can lead to a recession, it can lead to a downturn in the economy, and so on and so on. And you can evaluate it in different ways as well.
So I'll still have to do the diagram, yeah.
You still have to know your knowledge, of course. All your diagrams, like all your basic diagrams, yes.
Yeah.
A different approach. You can even talk about how there's negative externalities from steel production, carbon emissions. Yeah. So
Perfect.
much to talk about. There's so many options you can go into. If you don't know how to write that paragraph, you can search around. I'm sure there would be more. Um, let's have a quick look.
Is that 2017, yeah?
Yeah.
Mm.
Um,
Have we tried linking it, like, let's say, look, let's say, like, as if, in the paper, they talk about steel industry. So was that, like, the main thing in 2017? Like, have we, like,
um,
predict- predicted stuff on basis on, like, current,
no,
like,
because if you think about it, every extract that Peter Cramp has written for paper one or two or three, all of those extracts, how many extracts are there? Four,
uh,
two from paper 1A, two from paper 1B, two from paper two, so 4, 8, and then two from these, so 4, 8, 10. There's 10 different options that can come up, on top of the fact that he may have missed one out or two out. So there's at
Mm,
least 10 possibilities, and then you can
mm.
subtract the ones that have been predicted correctly, like Thames Water. So then there's going to be about 10 or 11, right?
Yeah.
So you would have to go through all 10 extracts to know the common themes of the UK economy, on top of the fact that it may be outside the UK economy.
Mm, okay.
So there's no way of predicting it unless you want to read all 10 extracts, which is completely a good idea because it's good practice anyway to read an
Yeah.
extract and understand what the key points are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
But trust me, you're more prepared than you think for paper three. Paper three is where you put together your knowledge, stuff that you've revised from paper one and two. But
Okay.
I'm telling you, don't rely on one prediction. It will be
Yeah.
nothing to do with it. So, um, anyway, that's one example. Then what's the reason for intervention? Well, the intervention is that um, if UK steel is used in construction projects, then that would lead to well, it would lead to lower imports.
Oh, yeah.
So it would lead to lower imports, and it may also lead to higher exports.
But
Uh,
this is like mainly macro, if you think about it, whatever we was talking about, whatever
yeah,
the points we pulled out.
yeah. There's more. I would say it's meant to be 50-50. I would say that it's 60-40 macro, or maybe a bit more.
Yeah.
It's about the UK, or it's about a country. You're working for a country,
Mm.
even if it is externalities or something. The only things in micro that could come up are market failure, market structures, labor markets. And those three things still have macro links.
So
Whether
would you
you,
think that paper three is better than paper one and paper two because you can combine all your knowledge together
yeah,
and
you
you can
pick
have
your
you
favorite links to a question and write about those. So yes, I do think that.
yeah, because paper one, paper two, you like basically restricted to like macro specifically and micro, so you can't go off topic on that.
Exactly.
Oh,
Exactly.
say,
Um, so yeah.
um,
We're talking about the benefits of investing in steel. You can talk about how um, there's structural unemployment. Steel went
mhm.
to foreign countries like China. That means all the steel workers in the UK lost their job. These guys are unemployed. If the UK government do something to intervene in the steel industry, that will allow them to get jobs. You can do macro links to that, or you can do labor market links to that. Education and training for the steel industry, for the steel workers, can lead to more employment. You can talk about all sorts. But I think macro, keeping it simple, talking about exports of steel and lower imports from China. We don't want to be buying Chinese steel.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can evaluate it the other way and you say there's alternatives. When they say government intervention, what do they mean? Do they mean subsidized steel or does it opportunity cost? What's Trump doing instead? He's putting tariffs. So there's so much stuff you can talk about.
Or you can bring in a real life example as well.
Yep.
Okay.
Next question. We're just gonna speed through these. That'll be half the session, and then the other
Yeah,
half we can do your questions about inequality and stuff.
yeah, that's fine.
So if we look at this one, I'm gonna try not to answer it. I'm gonna give you clues, and you're gonna. So this one says, would you recommend to OPEC countries? So again, the answers here. What are OPEC countries?
I
O-
said that was that paper two, right?
this was a paper three, but it was in the paper two prediction about oil prices.
Oh yeah, oil price. I thought that was the paper
Yeah,
two
yeah.
that we done.
So this came in 2018 paper three and also linked to paper two prediction about high oil prices.
Yeah. Oh,
But the only difference is that that was the impact. Um, that was the impact of oil prices,
mm,
whereas this one is um, is always going to be a recommendation.
okay.
So that paper two was like, what's the impact of high oil prices? This is a would you recommend that they increase oil price? Anyway, if you don't even know what OPEC are, it's going to be here. Okay,
Yeah.
OPEC are the oil producing countries. They have monopoly power over oil. Straight away, there's a micro link, but obviously in general, it's a macro link because it's talking about should all of these countries focus on restricting the price of oil, colluding, having high oil prices, yes or no, for their own interest, not for the UK's. That's what the question's asking. The answer
Okay.
is right here. I'm not even going to say it. Just read these two, skim through these, and then when you're ready, tell me what you think one of the paragraphs are going to be.
Talks about recession, GDP, so 80.
So start off by when you structure your answer, you're going to say something like, yes, I would recommend them to raise oil prices, or no, I would not recommend them to raise oil prices. So which section are you going to talk about first?
So I'll talk about um one second.
Yeah, take your time, take your time.
Reducing oil prices is good because it increased GDP from 3.5% to 4.7% in 1 year.
That's not GDP. But that's my fault. I made you rush. Take your time. That's about the budget deficit.
Oh, okay.
But read this one. This one's better.
All right.
But don't rush it. Just take your time.
Come.
These two sections are talking about why low oil prices are bad. Nigeria has been hit hard by low oil prices. Venezuela relies on oil. These guys are exporting oil. If you look at the OPEC countries,
Mm.
Venezuela and
Oh yeah,
Nigeria
yeah.
are some of the guys who sell oil to make money.
Okay, okay, okay.
So Saudi, like Arab countries, they rely on exporting oil to make money.
Mm. I feel like, the macroeconomic objectives
Yes.
that comes in there. So like,
So
also the AD equation.
good. So what's it talking about? So first of all, is this going to help you to answer why high oil prices are better or why low oil prices are better?
Why high oil prices are better.
Okay, good. So what would happen? So you can word it however you want. You can either say low oil prices are very damaging and explain, or you can say high oil prices would be better because. So what diagram are you going to draw?
Uh, AD
Yep, shifting.
shifting to the left.
Yeah, so you can say if these guys are suffering from low oil prices, they're going to have low AD. The reason is because they're relying on exports. So it says that Venezuela's exports are almost fully because of oil.
Yeah.
Entire exports are oil. So if oil prices are lower and lower and lower, their export revenue is going to be lower and lower and lower. X minus M is part of AD. If X is low,
Mm.
AD will be low. If AD will be low, there will be more unemployment. There's probably a lot of workers in the oil sector for them.
Wait, I got a question. You know how you said why 2 points why oil prices are lower oil prices are
Yeah.
not good and why which one's better? High oil prices or low oil prices?
Yeah.
Do I like explain both of these in my 25 marker?
You have to do both, yeah. Balanced argument. So 1 point for why they should increase oil prices, which is what we're doing now. And in a minute, I'm going to help you do the other side of the argument. But the
So
answer,
is this all like for every single 25 marker on paper three?
yeah, it's always a recommendation. So whenever it says, would you recommend, you should
Yeah.
be like, yes, I would. Some people, so you're going to do an introduction, then you're going to be like, some may recommend that they should blah, blah, blah. Others may recommend that they should blah, blah, blah. And then your judgment is going to be your overall opinion and your answer.
So that goes in my intro.
Um, wait, what? Oh,
So
no, no.
you know,
So it's going to be like, sorry, it's going to be like introduction.
yeah,
Then it's going to be like paragraph one is going to be like, I would recommend high oil prices because blah, blah, blah.
yeah.
Evaluate it. Paragraph two, others may recommend low oil prices.
Oh,
Fully explain it, evaluate it, and then your judgment.
so okay, say no more. You know, from my intro, okay, so define OPEC and like define the AD equation in this case.
There's barely any definitions in the. I would just define the four objectives, basically.
Okay, calm.
Or development. You can define economic development because some of these countries are developing as well. So if you're able to
Yeah.
set that up, then you can do that as well. So
Okay.
economic development is when countries improve in their living standards, their health, and their education.
So you know how I made my first paragraph, the point what I just said, right?
Yeah.
I talk about
Yeah.
why high oil prices are better in this case. So what would my evaluating point be then? Like,
In this case, it would be about, you could say that it's gonna help them if their oil prices fall. Well,
yeah.
one easy one is like you can be like oil prices will fluctuate all the time. So if oil prices are low, it could return to become high again in the near future.
Oh yeah.
Then the impact will be less damaging. So there's no need to constantly
Or
pay.
can you talk about how oil is like scarce free what do you call it? It's
Finite and non-renewable.
yeah, non-renewable.
Yeah, good. You can talk about that as well. You can talk about externalities as well of like fossil fuels and all that stuff. Um, you can talk about how although exports will be low, there's other parts of the AD equation. So as long as those remain high, the damage won't be that bad. Um, you can talk about how low oil prices will actually boost the volume of exports. There's a lot of different things you can talk about.
Okay.
Um, Then the harder bit for this question in particular was this other side. We have to search around for the benefits of low oil prices. So it clearly
Yeah.
says here what crisis. So this section will give you information about why low oil prices are not that bad. So can you read through and take your time? Can you read through that and tell me what you think would be a good paragraph?
I got a question. So let's say you're a student, yeah,
Yeah.
and you're doing this exam. How would you know that this section is talking about low oil prices, that section talking about high oil prices?
What does the question say? Read the sentence.
Extracts after considering would you recommend to the members of OPEC that they continue to restrict the supply of oil, try to raise world market price for oil? Yeah,
I'd literally I'd reword it. Um, I'd be like, I would. Um, Wait, I can't write. 1 second.
come.
1 second. Hold on. I literally just copy the words of the question. Intro. Then paragraph one would be like, some would recommend to them that they set that they some would recommend to raise the price, and then go into a full detail about that.
Yep.
Others would recommend not to raise the price. Go into full detail about that, and then overall, and then give your conclusion.
Okay.
If I pick a different question, only for the structure, I'll show you what I mean. The question here says, the question here says, would you recommend that the government blah blah blah? So I'm literally just gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna do intro, then I'm gonna do. I haven't even read the question. I'm just doing it. I was gonna say, some would recommend to increase spending on housing.
Mm.
Others would recommend not to increase spending. It's always a yes or no, so it should be very straightforward.
Okay.
Unless they change the wording of the question, which they've not done before, but they might change it and be like, what policy would you recommend is the best one? But I doubt they'll do that. So far, it's always been a yes or no question.
Yeah, that's cool.
But just read the question as you normally would. Just use your common sense.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Um, can you read this? But don't rush it. I want you to see if you can pick a alternative paragraph for the no side. Like
I
what
think
oil price is bad.
okay, never mind.
Wait, what were you gonna say?
My eye suddenly caught the the last sentence of the second paragraph. If oil prices rise, output investment in the industry are likely to increase again.
Yes, but that's part of your eval probably talking about how oil prices will rise again anyway in the like quickly.
Hmm.
So I need an argument for low oil prices now.
Okay.
It's harder because there's less detail, but you have to find it.
Hmm.
I'll give you a clue. What's it talking about over there?
So a fall. So it says a fall in oil price of oil leads to an increase in
Has
productivity.
Yeah, it has not been as damaging as predicted. This is because of that fall in oil price,
Mm.
companies have learned to be more productive because it's less profitable, so they're a bit more desperate, so they're becoming more efficient.
Mm.
So you can talk about how, well, you can link it to productive efficiency if you want to, or you can talk about an increase in a right shift in SRAS because they're reducing cost of production.
Or talk about like positive externalities in production then.
Um, that's a hard one. I'm not sure because positive externalities in production are about a third party. So I'm not sure about that one.
Isn't a third party the consumers?
Oh, so cheaper. So that will lead to cheaper oil for consumers.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe. I would be careful because oil is also a demerit good. Like it's like a negative externality in production in the sense that you're burning fossil fuels, which is going
Oh
to
yeah.
cause global warming. So that's the reason I would be a bit careful. But apart from that, you're thinking in the right way.
Oh, could I not put them at eval when I talk about
Yeah, that's good.
yeah.
Um, but I think the key thing is about more productivity. Whenever you're talking
Yeah.
about greater productivity, you can talk about SRS or LRS increasing or micro costs falling as well. Uh,
Mm.
there's
Calm.
nothing else here, so that's pretty much it.
Would you use any of the data they're given as well?
Uh, I wouldn't really bother with the data for the 25 marker, but the extract's 100% definitely.
Okay. So what's the point of the thingy then?
These
The
graphs,
extra? Yeah, these graphs.
you need them for the 10 marker every time.
Oh, okay. Is the 10 marker similar to the 4 marker
Yeah,
then?
yeah.
So there's no like it's not like I thought it was like the 9 marker where you have to like
No.
draw
The 10
diagram.
marker is completely different for paper two, paper three. The 10 marker is a double four marker.
Oh, okay. Calm, calm.
A double four marker with a judgment.
So no intro though.
No.
Calm.
Okay. So I skipped the housing one, but that's easy anyway.
Yeah.
We can, okay, let's take a quick